What's up guys, I'm Caden with Crypto Now or Never and welcome back to another update on Turbo. If you enjoy this style of content, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. As always, none of this is financial advice. Let's get into it.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want.
Okay, so I'm just going to hop straight into Turbo. So from a technical analysis standpoint, not a whole lot has changed since my last video. In my last video, I was talking about how 3 different times since May we have seen Turbo forming a falling wedge. We saw this initial falling wedge, and then we saw this falling wedge start to break out, and we saw a very nice explosion. Then we saw this falling wedge start to break out, however, Bitcoin and Ethereum started to drop. And then now we are forming another falling wedge. So what I am personally watching at the moment is whether or not this falling wedge can break above the trend line or it breaks beneath the trend line. Whatever happens is going to give you a pretty good idea of where Turbo is going to be heading in the short term. I will say the last few times we have had a breakout from the falling wedge. However, I think there's a good chance that's just going to be correlated to the crypto market as a whole. If we come over here and we actually look at the crypto market, you can see that it's very indecisive. Bitcoin has actually recently started to pump again while Ethereum has started to drop. And that actually kind of ties into what I've been saying in my last several videos. If you come over here and you look at the Bitcoin chart, we're starting to get very oversold on the weekly time frame. And I told you guys that we are retesting the 21 weekly moving average with oversold stochastics. Oftentimes that is a perfect spot to get a bounce. Now, will this level actually hold? Only time will tell. We'll see how this weekly candle actually closes, but so far so good. And the other reason that I thought Bitcoin might get a bounce is when you look at Bitcoin dominance, it's getting very oversold. It came down here and got very close to hitting my measured move. And I've had this measured move drawn for over a month at this point. The measured move is all the way down here at 57%. As of right now, price action is starting to spike, but it came down to 57.8%. So don't be shocked if Bitcoin dominance does continue to get a bounce again, because again, Bitcoin is very oversold. What I would like to see for Bitcoin dominance is for it to come up and get rejected off the 21-day or the 50-day, or if it breaks above those levels, then to get rejected off the 200-day. We already saw a 200-day rejection one time. That is exactly what you want to see to confirm a macro downtrend. And the lower the Bitcoin dominance drops, the better for altcoins. Now, again, where the discrepancy lies though, Bitcoin's very oversold on the weekly. If you come over here and you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is not very oversold on the weekly. It's in a completely different situation. Ethereum is actually very overbought on the weekly. You can see right now that the stochastics have started to reset, but they're still in the overbought range. And if you look at the RSI, it's also pretty overbought. So what I've been saying is I would love to see Ethereum hold this 4,100 to 3,800 range. If we do not lose this level, then it could be a textbook support and resistance flip. And the reason that it's important to hold this is because we still would like to see price action truly put in a new all-time high. It did slightly put in a new all-time high, and this was actually the highest close that we've ever seen. However, you could still argue that this is a macro double top. We topped at basically the same level in November of 2021. So that's why it's important for Ethereum to not get hammered from here. We would love to see Ethereum truly get into price discovery. Because it broke all-time high for only a couple hours, there wasn't really any price discovery there. Now, what's even more interesting though, when you come back to the crypto market, is you'll notice that the fear and greed index is at 39. I want you to actually think about that for a second. The crypto fear and greed index is at 39, fearful. How on earth are people this scared when Bitcoin is at 110,600 and Ethereum is 4,300? It was just a few months ago that Ethereum was down at $1,380. And this right here just tells you why perspective is so important in this market. And then when you look at the altcoin season indicator, you'll see that it's 49 out of 100. And by definition, Ethereum is an altcoin. And I've been saying this in all of my previous videos, but if you guys are not invested in Bitcoin or Ethereum, you're probably not even really noticing that we're breaking out. Ethereum went from $1,380 up to new all-time highs, and a lot of projects are still in falling wedges, or they're just consolidating. It's not just Turbo. If you look at a lot of other projects that I cover on my channel, Miggles, for example, you can see that Miggles is just bleeding right now. You look at Kokoro, you can see that Kokoro is bleeding. You look at Captain BNB, which is even on a completely different chain. It's also consolidating right now. It's not just a Turbo issue. And you look at a lot of high caps, it's the exact same thing. If I were to pull up the Pepe chart, it'd look very similar to Turbo. So just make sure you actually understand that. From a macro standpoint, where it's also interesting is a post like this. It's a reminder that Fed could slash rates by 50 basis points in September if this week's job reports come in weaker than expected. Crucial week ahead. And this is very important because if we go from nothing to all of a sudden a 50 basis point cut, then that could actually create some FOMO. Right now, a lot of people are not going to be surprised if we get a 25 basis point cut, but 50 would actually be very interesting. So this is definitely something to keep your eyes on. Regardless of what happens though with the rate cuts, that should be very bullish for the long term. I know a lot of people would be hoping for an immediate pump, but just remember that it's almost always buy the rumor, sell the news in crypto. That being said, if we are still pulling back when the rate cuts happen, then it also could create a spike. Ultimately, we're just going to have to see what happens though. But the reason I'm going over all this macro stuff is because it's going to have a major impact on Turbo. Again, from a technical analysis standpoint, Turbo is trading in this falling wedge. And fundamentally, nothing has changed with this project. I still think Turbo is an extremely strong project, and if you look at their X account, they have 113,000 followers. They're still posting in here every single day, keeping their community engaged. For example, 5 hours ago, big ideas are cooking, don't miss the reveal. Turbo Day AMA. And I like a lot of their little motivational posts 23 hours ago. Growth begins where comfort ends. But again, fundamentally, nothing's changed. If we come over here and we look at Turbo and CoinMarketCap, you can see that the volume is also still very good on this project. Turbo is currently the 170th largest crypto. But if you look at the volume, 31 million. You look at the projects above it, 10 million, 23.6 million, 35.2 million, 31.4 million. It's very competitive with all of these projects. And that right there is why I'm saying fundamentally nothing has changed with Turbo. I know right now you guys don't want to see Turbo bleeding. I understand. But it is not just a Turbo issue. Everything is bleeding. You look at Pepe, it's also down in the last week. It's back to a $4 billion market cap. The Pepe chart looks very similar to the Turbo chart. But honestly, that's about it for the update today. It's important for you guys to remain resilient. Believe in what you hold. Have conviction in your plays. But as always, I also recommend taking a look at my Discord if you guys are interested. I currently have 3 different tiers, but we've been printing in here this entire cycle. Some of these plays you could have turned $1,000 into over $200,000. So if this is the kind of community that you'd like to be a part of, you can find the link right here on my YouTube homepage. It'd be a blessing to have you guys in here with us. But that's about all. Let me know down in the comments how high do you guys think Turbo will go this bull run. If you found this content valuable, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.